All right, so we're still syncing out more refinement. I think another thing I'd like to play around with is the fact that the background right now is just so plain. So there's a couple things we can do to break that up. One of them is this cool trick that I found here on CSStricks.com that is a so-called pure CSS repeating background stripes. So it's pretty easy if you're comfortable in Photoshop or Illustrator. You can make a little tile and then you can repeat that over and over as the background. But if you just want to work in CSS, I can use this little bit of code right here. Head back over to Atom in our CSS page. And let's see, this one, is this the right one or is this the, yeah, it's this one right here. I think this was, I was cheating off myself before. So here I'll come up into body, and instead of background as is, I add in a background that has a lot more characteristics. I'll just copy my color as the first two colors and delete this property here. So if I save it, you can see I get a repeating linear gradient at 45 degrees. And so at first this is going to be wicked ugly. Oh, hard to read. So that's off to a good start. That gives me some texture in the background. But what I really want to do is make sure that my light blue color is actually very similar to my accent color so that it's not so hard to read. So back to Photoshop. Here I'm starting there. And I could, for example, go to my brightness slider. So see, brightness is selected. And let's just move that down ever so slightly. And you see when I do that, now there's a difference between these two colors. So I can copy that hex, head back to Atom, and replace these two spots right here. Now it may seem kind of confusing, right, to wonder, well, why are there 4 color definitions, but they're repeated? And if you look at that link on CSS Tricks, they tell you more. You could change the degree of the stripe, you could change the thickness of the stripe, and I encourage you to get in there and muck around with it, right? Head back to here, reload it. So that's looking pretty classy, if I do say so myself. There is a little bit of a strange color relationship, right, between these neon greens and these blues, but I'm going to leave it to you to make it perfect. I'm just here to show you kind of how to get this stuff done. I mean, you know, when it comes down to it, this particular font is pretty ugly as a header, but it's going to be up to you to take the time to make it beautiful. So we could keep on working here. You know, another thing you could do is to center, say, your name or maybe your business name or something up here at the top. And then as we move down into here, we can also start to mix up this content. So these could be custom fonts. Some of these could be images. You know, you could have other kinds of styled links and so forth. Another thing I like to do is to do a CSS drop shadow. And this can be super tacky if we're not careful about it. So let's get in here and do a box shadow that is like, I think this has to do with like the distance and the spread and then the color or something like that. Let's see here. And then this one adds a blur effect to the shadow. So I'm just going to copy kind of a random one. And we'll go back to Atom. Let's put this under our content box. And I'll just leave it as is to see if their defaults are any good. So watch how this refines it. So if you watch this edge, now I hit reload, and whoa, that is way too heavy. So I'll head back in and maybe we'll make this something like, say, a light gray. I can reload that again. I think we also want to mess around with the opacity. So I'll head back to Firefox and see if I do a find on this page for opacity. Oh, interesting. It doesn't seem to want to come up. So there's the blur, the spread. And basically, I mean, I'm just doing the same thing that you're going to be doing, which is to go down through the property values and trying to figure out how you're going to make that thing look good. Maybe I will pause and cheat here for a second and go figure out what this looks like on my other page. Aha, here we are. So we're going to frame our color a different way. Instead of it making a hex color, we'll set up our box shadow as having an RGBA color, right? So RGB is red, green, blue, and then the A refers to the alpha channel, which is our opacity. So we're making it black, but then we're telling it to just be very, very barely visible, right? So this is a scale from 0 to 1, and it's only a 0.05. So I'll save that, head out to here, reload the page, and that is a lot more subtle, right? So that just lets this pop up off the page just slightly, like these were note cards tacked to the wall. But we start to, we just keep this thing from being so flat. Okay, so now we're definitely getting into territory where you need to exercise your own, style. If I show you the version of this page that I was making on my own to match my style, I can show that to you real quick. It's a local file, so I'll head to here. So here's the one that I made. This is something that we're going to do moving forward, this like sliding gallery, some more on that in a bit. But I picked this font to talk about my name. And then down here, references to the different areas that you might find on the site. I haven't filled any of that stuff in yet, but I think this looks a lot better, as we start to make it more specific. So check the assignment on Canvas, and I'll have more details on there. But before long, we're actually going to have a site that you could really just, put up and use, as opposed to this just being an assignment to noodle around with.